Who's supporting Ukraine's military? While most of the world waits to see how Russian President Vladimir Putin will respond to increased sanctions over his involvement in Ukraine, many are still wondering about who exactly is supporting Ukraine's military and why. Here are the countries providing support to Ukraine, as well as an explanation of what that support means to the country. Hint: it's not all weapons. Ukraine's neighbors. When civil war erupted in the eastern part of Ukraine, Russian troops invaded and annexed Crimea, and pro-Russian separatists took control of parts of eastern Ukraine. The conflict became a proxy one for many countries. Russia has supplied weapons to Ukrainian rebels, who are on the front lines of fighting with Ukrainian government forces. The US has supplied non-lethal military aid to Ukraine and has provided training to Ukrainian military personnel. Other Western countries have also helped train Ukrainian troops in non-lethal defense tactics. But only Canada has sent lethal weaponry and supplies like helmets, bulletproof vests, heavy flak jackets and Kevlar blankets. They will also advise senior Ukrainian commanders about NATO standards for small unit tactics. Canada's involvement comes amid an escalating standoff between Russia and NATO over its intervention in Syria, where Moscow has been accused of bombing civilian targets including hospitals, schools and markets. Ukraine's allies. There are many countries from around the world that have pledged military support to Ukraine. They include the United States, Canada, Poland, Lithuania, and France. The European Union has also been instrumental in assisting with humanitarian aid efforts and civil defense initiatives. The United States has so far contributed more than $5 billion in assistance since 2014, making it by far the largest international donor of humanitarian assistance for those impacted by Russia's aggression in eastern Ukraine. It has committed an additional $41 million in security assistance to help increase Ukraine's resilience to future Russian hybrid threats. Canadian Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan visited Kiev on January 23, 2017, and announced a plan to provide new equipment including drones, radar systems and sonar detection units for patrol boats to the Ukrainian armed forces. Canada is also providing $6 million worth of non-lethal military equipment including helmets, bulletproof vests, first aid kits and tents for refugees fleeing conflict zones in Eastern Europe. France has also offered €600,000 to equip Ukrainian border guards with body armor. Ukraine is well on its way to rebuilding its economy and developing closer ties with Western institutions after 3 years of war, but will need continued international support as the fighting continues. The 2016 ceasefire agreement has not stopped all violence. In April, 18 soldiers were killed when pro-Russian rebels launched missile strikes on Ukraine forces. On July 25, 2017, at least 7 people were killed and dozens injured after separatists shelled a bus near Donetsk airport in eastern Ukraine. Over the last 2 months, separatist forces attacked Ukrainian army checkpoints using anti-tank rockets as well as IEDs. Union of European Agricultural Producers. The Union of European Agricultural Producers, UAP, welcomes the EU decision to put in place the necessary measures to support Ukraine and its people, who are facing a grave humanitarian crisis. The UAP is deeply concerned by the serious impact on agricultural production caused by this conflict and calls for an end to hostilities. The current situation in Ukraine poses real threats to our common goals of sustainable development and food security. The UAP urges the international community to act now, as this impacts us all. We need an immediate ceasefire and a permanent political solution that ensures long-term peace in order to rebuild shattered lives and damaged livelihoods. In addition, there needs to be substantial external financial assistance from both public donors and commercial lenders in order to ensure economic recovery. Agribusinesses and other partners need access to credit so they can continue investing and producing crops and livestock. The Ukrainian government also needs support with rebuilding critical infrastructure including roads, bridges, dams, airports, hospitals, and schools, as well as long-term investment in education to build a workforce that can meet labor demand over the coming years. The Russian economy. Although the Ukrainian military is still being outgunned by pro-Russian rebels, it has been able to put up a good fight. Russia's economy, meanwhile, has been struggling to recover from its steepest decline in 2 years. The ruble has fallen 12% this year, and last week its central bank raised interest rates by 1 percentage point in an effort to keep the currency from falling any further. Economists say the Russian recession will deepen if oil prices remain low, but increased sanctions could also push them back into growth mode. Either way, Russia will continue to fund pro-Moscow rebels in eastern Ukraine. Last week, rebel leaders announced that they had received €3 million worth of aid from Moscow, part of a €10 million package offered earlier this month. With the fall of their own government, pro-Russian separatists may need help more than ever, meaning that Putin may have no choice but to bolster his former satellite state with economic assistance as well as weapon supply. But for now, at least, Ukrainians seem to be getting all the weaponry they need. Earlier this month, Kiev struck a deal with Washington for $335 million worth of lethal weapons supplies, including Javelin missiles and sniper rifles. That would come on top of some 200 tanks and dozens of armored personnel carriers that the US plans to send Kiev. Just this week, NATO members Poland and Lithuania sent 50 tons of ammunition each to Ukraine, which followed other Western nations who have also supplied Kiev with over 500 tons of arms since April. And though the conflict has strained ties between Europe and Russia, French President François Hollande just became the first Western leader to meet with Vladimir Putin since Crimea was annexed. Although France hasn't agreed to export weapons yet, Hollande did offer Putin support for peace talks and said he would not isolate Moscow over the crisis. But while European governments are debating how far to go in support of Ukraine, much less divisive domestic policies are proving to be successful at easing tensions within the country. In June, voters approved constitutional changes that made Ukrainian more difficult. I hope you get some value in this video. If you do, consider subscribing for more updated news around the world. Thanks for watching. See you on my upcoming videos. Peace.